The worst industrial accident in U.S. history, 1931, Gauley Bridge, West Virginia. Union Carbide had a plant there and they needed electricity. So they built a power plant, but that required water. So they had to divert water from the New River so that the water could turn the turbines. And unfortunately, of the 3,000 workers, about 700 ended up dying. Why? From the tunneling. They were drilling and inhaling silicon dioxide. Terrible. Causes a condition known as silicosis. Now, don't worry about going to the beach. You're not going to inhale enough sand there. Here, it was very finely powdered, and they were inhaling it day and night. As I said, it was lethal. Furthermore, silicosis is also linked with cancer. Terrible. And these workers had no protective equipment. They were not furnished with masks. It was a horrible event in U.S. history. But we have our own such landmark as well. Also goes back to the 1930s. This time, Northern Ontario. The McIntyre Mines. Sandy McIntyre was a Scottish immigrant, came to Ontario as a prospector, and he found gold. And this started what came to be known as the Porcupine Gold Rush, because the area in Northern Ontario was known as the Porcupine area, village called Porcupine. And a gold mine was built there. Now, there's a problem when you mine, because you're drilling and you're also inhaling the dust. Chance for silicosis. Well, the company needed to protect its workers because they didn't want them filing all kinds of health claims. So they had some help from the Banting Institute, University of Toronto, and the suggestion was made that inhaling aluminum powder would protect the workers. Now, aluminum is a metal. This is what you're familiar with. It's a lustrous silvery metal. But there's also aluminum powder. If you take this metal and you grind it, you get aluminum powder. That's what it looks like. And believe it or not, this was tested. It was tested on rabbits. And the rabbits were made to first inhale silica and then inhale the aluminum powder. And the researchers said that it worked. It protected them because the aluminum powder supposedly coated the sharp edges of the silica and prevented it from having an effect on the lungs. The fact is that it didn't work. But for 40 years, miners, before their shift, went into a room, the doors were closed, they were made to inhale the powder. Deep breathly, boys. That's the instruction that they got. And no one really monitored the effects because indeed the company gave all kinds of prizes and extra salary if they didn't take any time off from work. So the miners hid their illnesses. However, years and years later, in the early 2000s, turned out that many of these miners suffered all kinds of ailments. And the daughter of one of these miners, Justine Martel, decided to take a look into the history because her father had died of Parkinson's disease. Well, it turns out that this is one of the problems that was caused by inhaling all of that aluminum powder. And finally, the Ontario government has decided to give compensation to the miners who were hurt in this way. So the incident in 1931 in West Virginia and the incident in Northern Ontario, not great hallmarks for science.